Right, this is the Into the Endgame video they recently released. It's 6 minutes long. Let's see what they have to say. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get told a bunch of stuff we already know. But who knows? Maybe they'll just whip something out and be like, haha, surprise. Doubt it though, but we'll see. We shall see. Wells. Andariel. I wonder where they're going to put Andariel.
Letting them experience this massive world.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way. As a player continues to advance through the story and into the endgame, they'll unlock a ton of brand new activities that provide meaningful progression, no matter their
That looks so scripted.
Players will be able to keep progressing in the narrative of the game. Alongside that, the whole team has worked on crafting a variety of different experiences players can pursue.
We're going to have an entire world of Sanctuary for our
As
players
if it's
to
2
offer.
months away.
There's going to never be an absence of something to do.
After the player has finished the campaign, there's a lot more game to go and participate in. They gain access to a special, what we call capstone dungeon that they have to complete. Once they're able to finish this capstone dungeon, they're going to gain access to the first world tier.
As you complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier. That involves unlocking powerful loot, new items, and more advantages for your player to have a better opportunity at end game.
Also known as unique.
Dungeons, PvP, or just roaming around the world, there's a way to continue your Diablo adventure long after hitting max level.
Bless him. You can so tell he's reading a teleprompter.
You'll start with the skill tree and expand out into the Paragon system.
A lot of the choices the players make are grounded on skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. The Paragon board is a place where we're allowed to have a lot more depth, a lot more customization, many more options.
See, I did a review recently. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I think it's a good review. It's doing pretty well on the YouTubes. But I said in the review that I suspect the Paragon boards are going to add a lot more depth because they look like a really dumbed down, more accessible version of like the passive skill system, and that is technically correct. But seeing like 1 billion plus 5 stat things in a row, I was kind of hoping there would be a wee bit more. Like obviously you've got the special, like, I can't remember what they're called. I think they're sigil, no, not sigils, glyphs, I think they're called them. You get the special ones and they will act like when you put jewels in a Path of Exile passive skill tree, and it'll have an effect on a radius, and there's different sizes. But if like out of your 200 total Paragon points that you'll have by level 100, if 75% of those are on just +5 to main stat, then how is that really any different from the Paragon system in Diablo 3? It just seems like a slightly more interactive version of it. I hope I'm proven wrong. Maybe the glyphs and whatever are a bit more beefy, but we'll see.
As you go.
You can rotate the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, right? I want these particular
strength-based things.
You can chart your path
more
through
strength.
it, and they're really a way for you to keep expanding your character and making it uniquely yours.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the aspects related to the character. You are able to complete a dungeon and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows players to do is take items they're finding in the world and make them more powerful, turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover.
Remember, they are the weakest version of the aspect.
Every part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
They're more difficult and they have additional objectives, and then they also have affixes, which add a degree of difficulty for you and your group to work through.
I've seen the data mined ones, and they actually have some pretty brutal shit in there. This isn't one of them.
Will open up throughout the area that will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to also be dealing with while you're trying to
if you know, you know.
Inside the dungeon. There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find in Diablo 4, and any one of them can become a nightmare dungeon. by finding a nightmare sigil and then using it to activate the nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything's a little darker, everything.
I've just realized something, because I was thinking before, from a previous video, that people are just going to go, okay, all of these dungeons are annoying, so I'm just not going to do them, and I'm just going to do the fastest ones. But if sigils are random, depending on the drop frequency, that could potentially be a good way to get people to do the dungeons they don't want to do, kind of thing, if you know what I mean. I'm a bit like apprehensive on whether or not that's a good or bad thing. I'm undecided, but again, it depends on how frequent the drops are, because you could get yourself into a position where you're just like, I have 200 sigils, so I can pick and choose and do what the hell I want. But if they're rare enough, or too rare potentially, then obviously then you just do whatever you've got as and when you've got it. It's a tough one. It's kind of like maps, because obviously with maps, the further up you go, you're gonna have like in Path of Exile, of course, you're gonna have like 100 white maps, and it's like, I don't do white maps anymore, I only do yellows, kind of thing. But we'll see. I wonder if they'll do something where you can trade in the ones you don't want to maybe get a new one, like when you trade in 3 of the same map in PoE. That would be nice.
Things more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
I am looking forward to the Nightmare Dungeons. I'm not gonna lie.
There's some targeted activities in Diablo 4 that suit what you're feeling in the mood for.
The Forces of Hell are starting to have more influence in certain parts of Sanctuary in the vast interconnected overworld of the experience. And as the players are going into Helltide areas, you're going to find even more powerful monsters. And by killing them, they'll be able to gain.
We kind of got a taste of
shards
Helltides in the beta
to purchase these big
through the
rewards that are available.
Stronghold
These
event.
caches that are found littered throughout Helltide areas.
The sky darkens and the rivers run red, meteors fall from the sky, and the monsters get harder. We really want to create new experiences for the players. There's one I really like called Whispers of the Dead, which you get from the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers is grim and a little gruesome, but it's also something mystically haunting and kind of beautiful.
The tree has a little bit of a grudge against our players, and it would like for them to go serve its needs. So you're going to go serve these bounties, gather different rewards, different items, and bring them back to the tree in hopes that it can exchange you something really meaningful.
Maybe you're gonna go.
This is cool. Back on Helltides. Helltides, clearly inspired by the Terror Zones in Diablo 2, which in Diablo 2 is actually quite effective, because in Diablo 2, everyone was like, let's just farm Bale and Pindle's skin, or whatever his name was, until we drop dead, basically. Whereas with Terror Zones, it incentivized players to playing content that end game, as much as you can call it in Diablo 2, they would usually ignore. Like, once you've completed the campaign, you basically just farmed the same like 4 or 5 bosses over and over again. But Terror Zones incentivize people to go to these zones as they're being terrorized and fight all these higher monster level creatures. I don't know how effective it's going to be though in Diablo 4, because you've got level scaling anyway. So it's like, I don't know. Obviously, Helltides will mean higher level mobs in certain zones, but it's like, will people feel the need to do that when they have other options that I imagine are better effective? And is it just a sub-zone, or is it like the entire Fractured Peaks? Or is it just going to be like, I don't know, just the one little area that Fractured Peaks is broken up into, you know? I'm undecided on that one. This thing though, I like this Tree of Whispers, because it's semi-targeted, so you can be like, I need one-handed weapons, and you know, you've got a tiny bit of control. Like, I really like Last Epoch because it's RNG, but you just get given enough control that you're not at the mercy of RNG, and I think that makes a huge difference in loot-based games. When it's completely RNG, it just feels horrible. Like, I love Path of Exile, but because there's so little dictation in what kind of loot you can get, like, you get a little bit in Delve, which is probably why I like Delve, like, more than most of the other things in Path of Exile. But being able to just go, oh, I need boots, so click on the thing and you get a boots reward. That's nice. I like that. More of that. More of that.
To the Fractured Peaks and take out some werewolves that are rampaging in a town. They're contained activities that you can do alone or in a group. We really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world. It's very cool the way it's been put together, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
Same. 2
In
months.
Diablo 4, we have a focus on the world of Sanctuary. And there are parts of that world that we call the Fields of Hatred, where Lilith's presence in Sanctuary has begun to seep through and manifest these poisonous areas throughout the world. When players go to these regions, they get to engage in player versus player conflict.
I've heard from the leaks that you can opt out of the PvP and just PvE in the PvP zone.
Shards back to town, you'll need to purify them. Other players will definitely
I
know
feel
that
kinda
you're
weird
attempting
about.
to purify your shards. So you'd better be prepared to fight if you're going to be playing any PvP, and be prepared that you might lose some stuff in the meantime.
Once they've got the purified shards, they can take these, go back to nearby
I'm
towns
hoping they
to sell
confirm
them,
it in
and then
this.
use that to buy a whole bunch of like interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
It's a place for people who really
Are they just
A whole bunch of, like,
oobles?
interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
No, it's just another gambling
place
vendor,
for
okay.
people who really love PvP and want to still get loot and still
Is that what
increase
we're
their
supposed to be
character's
calling them, by the way?
power.
Is it
If
oobles or
that's the way
obols?
they want to play, they can.
Launch is just the beginning. One of the things we're really focused
Okay,
on is
they didn't
creating
confirm
a
it.
living,
You potentially can
breathing
unflag
set of
yourself in
updates for players to
PvP.
engage with after the game has gone live.
Which I think
It's
kind of
really just
defeats the
gonna be
point.
a way to keep coming back
the
and
Fields of
experiencing
Hatred.
more Diablo 4 in fresh ways.
We're really eager to hear all of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
Is that another one of the world bosses? I believe that's our first look at it.
All of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
Okay. I think there's supposed to be 4. I believe there's supposed to be 4 anyway. Yeah, so it was alright, I guess. Kind of hoped they'd whip out a surprise. I think they're going to be doing a developer update on the 20th, because I remember them going like, it's gonna be on the 20th, and I looked at the tweet and I was like, yes, 420. If you know, you know. But yes, I kind of hoped they would whip out a surprise there. Maybe we'll get that at the developer interview or whatever they call it, developer update. I think that's supposed to be about Endgame as well. Nightmare Dungeons, sure, it's going to be a slightly, hopefully better, more interesting version of rifts / maps / echoes, depending on the game that you play. Helltides, maybe they're going to be good. I do think Terror Zones work well in Diablo 2, but that is because Diablo 2 has so little other things anyway, that it just means that the content that was made redundant becomes no longer redundant. Whereas in Diablo 4, I don't know. I have a feeling, I can't even explain it. I just suspect it will be less effective in a game that has more options to begin with. So yeah, we'll see about that. And yeah, PvP, if you can unflag yourself, I kind of feel like that's kind of pointless. I know there's going to be some people like, well, I don't want a PvP, Brian. It's like, well, don't go into the PvP zone then. Whatever. But yeah, I know someone's going to dislike the video just because of that comment already, but I don't care. So yeah, overall, I'm still excited. Especially now we've seen that third world boss. He looked cool. Or she. I don't know. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. Like and subscribe and buy a taco. Bye.